Hello folks, Mr. Dan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about turf grasses and just introducing you to different types, concepts, and all the stuff that goes into that. So the main idea here is what are the types of turf grass and how do they grow? So a lot of people see a field full of grass and they think it's pretty boring. So hopefully after today, you guys can learn a little bit about the types of grass that go into it, why you use certain types over others, and just a little bit more about the subject because you folks are going to be out there cutting stuff here pretty soon if you're not already. So where turf grass is used? Typically on home and commercial landscapes such as your house or around a business, recreational areas such as parks, golf courses, huge area for different types of turf, cemeteries, and different types of playing fields. The positive environmental impacts of grass, there are no negatives to having grass around. So they prevent soil erosion, purifies and conserves water. Whenever you have water going into the grass, it filters down through into the roots. Anything else that goes over top typically is filtered through by the blades. Reduces air pollution via making oxygen. And as I said before, gives off oxygen. Builds the topsoil layer up. The longer you have a grass layer in there with a good seed bed, the more that it's going to populate that ground underneath, and it'll actually help create a little bit more nutrient bound ground. So a few more benefits here. They're especially important in heavy populated areas. Grass, proper turf will reduce noise, reduces the ground temperature. If you just have bare ground, then typically it's going to be a little bit hotter underneath that surface. And it also reduces glare. Bare dirt gives off a good glare, causing short periods of blindness and cable. So there's two different types of grasses. You have your cool season grasses like you would see up here in the Northeast, such as bluegrasses, fescues, bentgrass, and ryegrass, and we'll be going over those here in the classroom here over the coming weeks. And then you have warm season grasses, which you would see more down towards Georgia and Florida, that are Bermuda, St. Augustine, really interesting grasses that are typically a little bit thicker blades. Some kind of look like plastic. Just a note on this last one down here with zoysia grass. This is a type of grass you never ever want to plant up in this area. It's extremely invasive. The root systems, a typical root system on a grass goes about 6 inches deep. A root system for zoysia grass, it can be about 8 feet in the ground. So planting that stuff is a big no-no in this area. And whenever you run over it with a mower, spreader, anything like that, it'll typically it gets stuck a little bit more, and the color's just not nice on zoysia grass. So zoysia grasses in the winter just turn brown, and they never turn anything darker than a light shade of green in the summer. So typically your customer is going to want a greener grass, like a nice dark green grass. So climate makes a difference. The U.S. is divided into 9 different climate areas, like you guys just found out in the lecture I gave on plant identification. Certain grasses grow best in each area. So up here in Pennsylvania and in the Northeast, you want to use a cool season grass. If you go down south, you want to use warm season grasses. So regions for growing grass, as I was just saying, cool humid region, that's Midwestern to Northeastern United States. Those are best suited for cool season. The warm humid region, that would be the Southeastern US, best suited for warm season grasses. And then there's a transition zone. It's a narrow area between the cool and humid, warm and humid. We actually live in that zone, but there's certain grass types, and we'll get into those in a future lesson here, that you can plant in both regions. So both cool and warm season grasses can grow in this region, but you have to make sure you pick the proper ones. So summers that are too hot for cool season grasses, like we're seeing right now outside, that's where you're going to start getting brownouts. And winters that are too long for those warm season grasses, typically will kill those off. So in northern plains, that's be the north and north central US, those are more for cool season grasses. Typically you want to have an irrigation system in those yards, but we don't really have to worry about those a whole lot around here quite yet. Southern plains, that's in the south central US. Those are suited for warm season grasses, and irrigation is typically needed, but mostly just for food growth. And then cool and arid, semi-arid. Cool, arid, and semi-arid are north central, north and mountainous, and high plains areas of the US. They're best suited for cool season grasses because they're just a higher altitude and the irrigation required throughout the growing season. So in these other areas like the northern plains, southern plains, and cool, arid, and semi-arid, you want to make sure you have an irrigation system, and especially if you're growing something more than grass, especially like foods, vegetables, all that. So just a couple more here. Warm, arid, and semi-arid, heavy of Southwest United States. Only warm season grasses, if any grasses at all. If you get into Arizona, you're not going to see a lot of grass in the backyards, but typically in the front yards, and those are they have to be irrigated. The North Pacific coastal region, that's between coastal mountains and the Pacific. Those are best suited for cold season grasses. And then the California coast and interior valleys, California region between mountain ranges and Pacific Ocean, that's best suited for warm season grasses, and it is definitely a need for irrigation. So you want to make sure you get that special blend. So seed is custom blended for each region. The typical grass mix for our area is known as Penn State mix or Sunny mix. So that's usually a mixtures of fescues and bluegrasses. When you guys are in class, I'll show you an image of a label on the grasses we have here at school. And there's a ton of different kinds you can buy. You can usually get those, if you're at the school here, you can get them across the street at Site One Landscape Supply or up on top of the hill over at Advanced Turf Grass Solutions. And then you want to use a premium quality seed. I can't stress this enough. Make sure whenever you're buying seed that it is not expired. So just because a seed is expired doesn't mean it's bad, but it needs retested to make sure that that seed is germinating at the right rate. The seed germination rates, typically if you get an 80% or higher, then you're gonna be able to plant a nice lawn. So there's 3 ways to start a lawn. Seeding, you're gonna learn that in here over the next few weeks. Typically we'll put down some topsoil, hay over top, get our seed in there, maybe even some fertilizers. Sprigging, that's planting live cuttings. We will get into that in here, but that's not really one of the better ways of doing this. And then sodding, just like this little picture here on the right. We're actually going to be using the sod cutter here in class to show you guys how to cut sod. Then we're going to lay that, and you guys will see some new things coming up on campus. So all lawns need fertility, sunlight, and soil moisture. So if you plant a new lawn and you don't water it, nothing's going to grow. I mean, if you're lucky enough to get a lot of rain on that doesn't wash it away, then that's pretty fortunate. But typically any new lawns put in, you should be watering once to twice daily in the early morning and early evening. So grass can spread by creeping. So under the soil, this is with rhizomes or rootstocks. A good example of this is bluegrass. So if you have bare spots in your yard that look a little bit fertile, typically grass is going to come over and fill in those spots. And along soil surface, that'd be more of a creeping bent grass or Bermuda grass. You're going to see this a little bit more down south compared to under the soil growth. And then new roots develop at each joint. So you take a look at this picture over here on the right, you can see different joints coming up, and that's how it is growing together underneath the ground. And they will invade new areas and can heal damaged areas. So if you plant a lawn and stuff's not coming in every single part of it, give it a little bit of time to let that happen. Because typically seeds will creep over, as I was saying earlier, and fill in those areas. Grass can spread by tillering. This makes new stems at the outer portion of the parental clump. So if you till up your yard a little bit, some of those roots are going to start spreading around. So This would be called bunch grass or clump grass. They grow a lot more slowly and are less able to heal or fill in areas. So if you have grass established and you till it up, it's going to grow a little bit slower than you would if you just let it go and let it do its thing. So needs higher seeding rates. And some examples of this would be fescues and ryegrasses. So tillering is a pretty typical thing you can do up here, but to be honest, I would just let it fill in over time. Bluegrasses are especially great at that, especially under the ground, so I would go along with that. A fibrous root system. These grass plants develop fibrous roots, so small branching roots with a thick tangle. So, and they'll shoot stems. I messed that up. So grass plants develop fibrous roots. Small branching roots with a thick tangle of interlacing roots, shoots, and stems. So adequate mowing height is critical. Typically here on campus, you want to keep that to 3 to 4 inches. Anything over that's probably going to get too thick to cut, and anything below that is going to burn out easily in the sun. So that is the end of my presentation on turf grasses. You can find all the assignments and whatnot up on Canvas. If you have any questions, please contact me in the classroom. Thank you.